Greetings, comrades. My name is Gigantles, and there's a couple of things I'm going to discuss in this week's video. The first thing is going to require me having to get up off my bed and show you. Not sure how I'm going to word it in the title of this video, but I'll show you what I mean in a second. Do you remember how I told you last week there was a problem with flooding in my room because there were a bunch of leaks outside? Fortunately, that's all cleared. It's all been fixed now, and all this whole area is dry. And I don't need to worry about stepping in my socks again accidentally, and I don't have to waste a ton of paper towel trying to dry out my room. But now I have a new problem. So last Sunday, I was coming back I was walking up, and as I told you before, on Sunday I cook stuff in the kitchen, so I spent a lot of time going in and out of my room. And at one point, I opened the door from the outside, and I heard a weird splitting noise, and then I saw this. It doesn't look like much right now, right? Hold on, let me show you. Can I hold my phone? I want to hold my phone without looking funny. That's my hand. Okay, there. Look. So, the top part of my door frame has broken off, basically. And I'm not sure how I worded it in the title of this video. Maybe I gave the impression I'll be decapitated, but hopefully I don't at any point. This would hurt if it hit me, but fortunately the metal arm up there is pretty much holding it secure. And you can clearly see some sort of expanding foam up there. But yeah, so... Okay, how do I put this back up? Yeah, basically I've got this thing to worry about now. Not simply because it could hit me, but also because it's a security risk in my room. See that metal arm up there? That thing? Basically, its purpose is to force the door closed when no one's pressing on it. So it causes the door to remain closed for as long as possible. It prevents it from just being left open and my room potentially being robbed. Now, for that to work, it needs to have a firm surface to pull against. Okay, so before this thing broke off, this would have basically pulled on it like this, and okay, that's a fly. It would have pulled on it like this, and then basically pulled the door closed. The problem is with that plank of wood loose, my door doesn't close naturally anymore, but it's fine because I always make sure I lock my door whenever I leave, even if it's just even if I just spend a minute in the kitchen. I'm a secure guy like that. And it's also problematic because my door should not be opening a significant amount. Let me show you. You see this little mark up there? That's a dent because of this branch just swinging over and hitting that. So my door opens a bit unnaturally wide now, and it also doesn't close by itself anymore. But I told the reception about it. Hopefully they'll have it fixed soon. And yeah, that's another thing I can report on my Life at University series. A lot of the stuff I moaned about last year was about dirty flatmates. A lot of the stuff I'm going to moan about this year is problems with the structural integrity of the building. Yeah, fun times. And the second thing I'm going to be talking about in this video is, I know I probably worded it strange again, but it's something along the lines of war with another ministry. And let me give you some context about this. Last year, I made a video exposing a Catholic ministry by a guy who calls himself the lay Pope. And he believes in a number of heresies. Well, I can't remember they were specifically from the top of my head, the ones I mentioned in that video. But there was a number of things such as the ordination of women, the abandonment of the church's stance on sexuality, the dropping of the barring of married men to the priesthood in the Western Rite, not from the Ordinariate of Our Lady of Walsingham, or whatever that is, but the lay Pope wants to. He claims that if he was the Pope, he would put forward a lot of reforms to the church and effectively make it become a lot more liberal. Not like simply a conservative church and a liberal church, but a politically liberal church, making it involved a lot more in politics, such as excommunicating every person who has guns, stuff like that. Okay, he's a very extreme individual in that manner, because he's letting a lot of his politics define his theology in the church, and some of the things he writes about are absolutely strange. And the reason why I'm mentioning him in this video, in the context of going to war with the ministry, is because last weekend on the weekend is when I typically make posts for my Facebook page, the Gigantian Apologetics. And on that page, I decided, what if I make a series refuting all the articles he's written? Because he's written a bunch of them. And that's what I've been doing. So I've basically taken a bunch of his articles and I've done my Gigantian method of apologetics, in which I copy and paste everything the person says, but then after every sentence, I put in a refutation of my own to basically show a thorough and direct refutation of specific statements the individual makes. And I did that with a number of his articles. I think I got 6 out of 12 now or something. But obviously he's not going to appreciate this, I'll tell you that now. The video I made about calling him a heretic and proving it in that video, it wasn't too detailed, and I promised that I would cover it again, but the lay pope actually tried to defend himself in the comments, and I can't remember what I said to him, but I promised in that video that I would make a thorough refutation of the lay pope. So that's what I'll be doing in this series on my page, Gigantian Apologetics. I'll take every one of his articles and break them down, explaining why he's either becoming too political, or why his writings and blogs and stuff are heretical or go against church teaching for specific reasons. Like at one point, he said that the transubstantiation, it's actually it was like conditional or something. So so technically a sinner could receive the host or the Eucharist, but it would somehow turn back into bread and not the body of Christ, which is absolutely stupid, because if there's one thing the church has been very careful about, it's the abuse of the Eucharist, and how people would try and would try and steal it, or people who are unworthy of receiving it would receive it, or even dropping it. There's a lot of care that goes into the treatment of the Eucharist, which would be absolutely ridiculous from the perspective of the lay pope, because he's suggesting that if people who aren't receiving it, because if people who receive it don't deserve it, then it won't be anything special to them, which by extension would mean if Satanists try to steal it for their black masses, we could effectively let them take it, because it wouldn't be the consecrated body and blood of Christ when they touch it. Or even if we drop it, it's fine, it's just crumbs, because it was an accident and God would somehow magically turn the host back into bread. Not those specific wordings, but that's the sort of theology that he was promoting on his blogs. So yeah, I'm going to be publishing a number of posts refuting everything he says. I know one of them is going to be particularly controversial, and it relates to him wanting to excommunicate everyone with gun owners, because he relies on the Uvalde, if that's how you pronounce it, the Uvalde mass shooting, and he relies a lot on the emotional value and trauma from that to basically say there is no good reason for any Catholic to have guns, overlooking a lot of and then he repeats a bunch of the typical anti-gun statistics and information and propaganda, whilst completely ignoring all of the stuff that guns do, regardless of the stance on like gun control and things. You should be careful what arguments you propose, especially if they may be outdated. But he basically goes way too. But even with that, he goes way too far by calling possessing a gun like a mortal sin, which is what excommunications are for really. He even goes as far as calling a bishop. He goes as far as calling a bishop almost guilty of committing a mortal sin. I can't remember what specifically for now, but reading his argument, that was just absolutely mind-killing, because it was so stupid in his reasoning. But I need to stop rambling on here now. Just know that aside from a near but not so near decapitation from my broken door frame. I'm going to be effectively going to war with the lay pope by delivering thorough refutations of all of his articles. Yeah, his argument for one article which promoted his militant environmentalist veganism was an absolute laugh to read, because he tries to promote animal rights on the level as human rights, which he seems to completely disregard how we've effectively been sacrificing animals to God for thousands of years before Jesus came along, and how even though technically God wasn't physically eating, because he doesn't have a physical body, especially back then, he was perfectly fine with Abraham giving him meat to eat when he visited him with the two angels. So there's a lot of things that this lay pope ignores, a lot of the things that he lies about, or just in his ignorance he doesn't know, and I'll be delivering thorough refutations against his articles to prevent him misleading people and sending them into heresy. And believe me, when you read his article about how he literally says he is willing to become an apostate to join the Anglican Church so that he can become a priest, despite him already being married and having a child, just so he could enter the ordinariate of Our Lady of Walsingham or whatever, so then he could enter back into the Catholic Church as a married priest. You realize just how evil a man this is, because only Satan would want to go through such a slippery, complicated route just to get his way with the priesthood, whilst completely ignoring the purpose of priestly celibacy. But that'll be my Facebook series on Gigantian apologetics. So if you want to read more about this heretic who has absolutely no clue what he's saying, or even any basic understanding of Catholic theology, it's on my Facebook page, Gigantian Apologetics. When I say I should stop rambling, I really should stop rambling and not just continue for another 2 minutes. Anyway, so have a good weekend, all of you. God bless you all. See you in the next video, comrades. Until then.